Hey, everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Thanks for joining us on a Monday night. I'm very pleased to welcome this gentleman to my show tonight. His latest single, Again, I Get to Missing You, is doing great on the charts, and he's got some other fantastic songs we're going to talk about tonight and some great things going on in his career. It's a real pleasure to welcome Zachariah Malachi to My Kind of Country. Zachariah, how are you tonight?
Hi, Scott. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing just fantastic. Real nice to talk to you. I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy that we got to.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking before we started a little bit about the Lefty Forzell documentary film that's coming out, and I understand you've got some involvement in that.
Yeah, a little bit. It kind of happened randomly in the moment. Got, asked that if we would, as the Cowpokes, the side band that I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, got asked if we would want to be featured in it, and we backed Tess Forzell on a couple songs, and then I got to kind of sing Coffee and Cigarette Blues for us. That was super cool.
Nice. One of my favorite Lefty songs.
You know the backstory to that song?
No, tell me.
It was inspired by Miss Maddie, who used to be a bartender at Robert's Western World. She was the backing inspiration that the legend says for that song.
Wow, that's really cool. I did not know that.
I didn't know what capacity. I know she smoked a lot of cigarettes and drank a lot of coffee, but I don't know if it was anything more than that. But apparently Lefty had been around her and then started writing the song. I think Lefty wrote that song.
Yeah.
I think it was written over at the Merchants Building, right across the street on Lower Broadway.
Wow. That's really cool. Yeah, he did write that. That's a great song. That's cool. Well, you've got some great people working with you. I know that the great Jimmy Capps and Michelle Capps produced your debut single, which was Local Bar Opry Star, and you've worked with them quite a bit, and people like Tim Atwood and Charlie McCoy. Tell me a little bit about some of this great music you're doing.
We cut Local Bar Opry Star. That's the name of the first single and the title of the record. I just been writing, these songs over a course of time, and it's my debut record. So when you're doing your debut record, you want to pick some of the best of your stuff and then take it to somebody like a hit maker like Jimmy Capps, and set it forth in front of them. And Jimmy and I and Michelle kind of would sit and spend time picking out the songs that we think were the best and lining up the record. And of course, sadly, we ended up getting Jimmy on half of the record, and we lost him in the middle of recording this record as a whole. But with the help of course, Mark Capps, Jimmy's son, and Michelle and Charlie McCoy, we ended up getting it wrapped up after Jimmy had passed. But Jimmy's on a lot of the record, and I feel like his guidance was still such a stronghold even when we finished it without him.
Yeah, great people.
Absolutely
fortunate I got to spend some time with both Jimmy and Michelle, and Jimmy was on my radio show. We did an interview about his book and everything, and just one of the best people.
Jimmy was one of a million, and Jimmy, I could tell you a little bit of candid Jimmy Capps information for anybody that never got to meet him. But Jimmy was one of those people that he'd be in the store and he'd hear himself on the PA, or he'd hear, a guitar lick or something, and he'd be like, "Was that me? I don't know if that was me or not." And he'd have to think back on if he recorded the song or not. He did so many recordings that he would forget, what he was actually on after a period of time. And Michelle would tell me that Jimmy would go out places and people would want to walk up to him and just tell him how much they loved him, or, how much they adored his playing and the person he was between the records and Larry's Country Diner. And Jimmy would just be bashful about it. He didn't like anybody. I mean, he liked anybody telling him, but I don't think he ever really knew the capacity of how much of a part of country music he is and was.
Yeah.
And he just always had the most humility out of anybody that I've ever met, specifically in the music business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an uncommon trait in the music business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's where the man in back came from. He was there to set tone for the star. He never wanted that stardom or the limelight himself.
Some of the best interviews I've done have been with folks like Jimmy Capps, and you mentioned Charlie McCoy. He's been on my show. Jerry Kennedy is another one. Just some of those people that were never, in the limelight, but they did so much and they were so important. And to me, they're every bit as much of a star as the person that was out in front.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. And I think that the artists and the musicians, a lot of us younger guys who are coming up, we look at these, discographies now, and I think now the importance, that the musicians union and everything else has put on giving the credit to the right musicians now, and now that the research has been done and more is coming out, we get to see the tracks that people like Charlie McCoy and Jimmy Capps have played on over the years, and you're just blown away by the amount of hits that these people had part in making.
Yeah.
And I'm actually currently in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm filming a movie or a television show here right now, and I have the day off, luckily. But when my first week of coming out, I had a stretch of time off, and I went to see the movie Blue Velvet. They did a re-screening of it here in Wilmington. It was filmed here. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I thought about throughout most of the film was the track Blue Velvet by Bobby Vinton, and how Charlie McCoy played vibraphone on that original track. And I had Charlie McCoy play vibraphone on my record, and we're talking the great Blue Velvet song's been out for well over, 70 years at this point?
Yeah.
It's astounding.
It's amazing. Charlie McCoy played on a lot of great stuff. Pretty Woman is another one, and just so many. Easy Lovin', Freddie Hart. I mean, just the list goes on and on. It's amazing. And most people associate him with harmonica, but he certainly played a lot of other instruments, too, on a lot of these records.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, guitar. And the fact, I think another aspect of Charlie that blew me away was how he shaped and founded the Nashville number system, the standard that most musicians use now in any studio setting or on stage. And it's a whole new language. It's like Charlie McCoy created a language.
Yeah.
It's like, and when Jimmy passed away, when we decided to start figuring out the next group of songs, I walked into the Capps' house, and Michelle was there with Charlie, and I sat with Charlie, and I played my music and watched him chart everything out as I played it. And it's just like how Jimmy did, but it was just crazy experience, the person who created the language writing out the chart as you're playing the song.
That's amazing.
Just the feeling alone was just out there.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to anything.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Well, folks, we are talking to Zachariah Malachi today. His website is zachariahmalachi.com. We will make sure and put that information on our Facebook page for My Kind of Country. And, of course, you can follow him on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Spotify. And you and I have another thing in common. You are originally from Michigan.
Yep, Michigan. I'll tell you, them cherries up where you're at are out of this world.
It's funny. So many artists that I've talked to over the years, if I mention Traverse City, that's the first thing they'll say. I love the cherries up there. I've been up there. Jim Ed Brown, I was blessed to interview him shortly before he passed away. And that was the first thing he said. I just love those cherries every time I come up there,
Oh, Jim Ed did?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you know about my connection with Jim Ed or not, but I live with Jim Ed's family. I live with his widow, Becky, and right before I left to come back out for filming, she'd found a bottle of cherry wine from Cherry Republic that I brought back from Traverse City to her, and she cracked it open. She was just excited to taste it because I brought it back for her from a trip in the past,
Wow.
Talk about irony.
That's amazing. Becky's a sweetheart. I actually had her on the show too. We did an interview when she put the book out here a few years ago, and another nice lady. That's really amazing. I'll tell you, small world.
Becky has been a second mother to me throughout my process of moving to Nashville, and her book. I know this show's plugging my stuff, but I will tell anybody listening they need to read that book. If they're a country music fan, they need to read Going Our Way by Becky Brown, because it doesn't only talk about her personal journey. It talks about the relationships and the friendships that she grew over the time that she's lived there for the past 70 years, of living in Nashville.
It's a very inspiring and informative book, and
Absolutely.
Folks, you can listen to our YouTube archive. That interview is on there too. You can check that out. So I know that Michigan is not exactly the mecca of country music, because I've lived here most of my life. So tell me how you really got into country music and what sparked it for you, especially being in Michigan.
Coming from a family of Southern people, Southern men that had moved, my both sets of my grandparents, my mom's dad moved the family north for the auto industry, worked for Cadillac and GM for years, and my dad's dad moved north to work at a chemical factory. I think he may have worked in a steel factory maybe prior. So it was just the tidbit of that Rust Belt industry that was going on, major boom in the 50s of all the Southern folks that moved north. And Dad raised me on Hank Williams and George Jones, and that was the music I heard growing up. And it was like, as much as I wanted to get away from it in my teen years, when you want to rebel against everything your parents are about, it seemed to be the only honest part of me that stuck around. And after I got out of high school, it seemed to be the only thing I loved and the only thing I talked about. Dad always told me that his friends in Southeast Michigan were listening to the Beatles when they came to America, and he was still listening to Hank Williams. And that kind of always resonated with me. But there's something to be said. I mean, because Hank was probably one of the bigger inspirations I had as a little kid. And it's interesting, because when I've gone to the museum in the past and talked to people in the past, Hank, for some reason, resonates with everyone, and he resonates with children. Children gravitate towards Hank Williams when they listen to his music. And it's wild to me that people from all backgrounds and demographics, will tend to sway that way when they hear Hank. And Steve Earle wrote a book, a fictional novel that touched on Hank Williams. And one thing that said is that the people in the slums of the towns, listen to Hank, and then at the same time, the people mixing up drinks in the mansions, had a Hank Williams record they always loved to listen to. It never mattered the walk of life. You could always relate somewhere in the middle with Hank Williams.
That's right. I agree with that. So what really brought you to Nashville?
It was a stroke of luck for me. I think it's one of those stories that kind of everything happens the way it's supposed to, and I was down there visiting with Isabella Brown, good songwriter, Jim Ed's granddaughter, and I was playing an open mic night at John A. in Music Valley, and I played probably about 4 or 5 of my songs. And Gus Arundel from Springer Mountain Farms heard me and offered to pay for my record.
Wow.
To get done. And it was a couple weeks after that I got a mysterious phone call from Jimmy Capps. And Jimmy had said, I want to produce this record.
Wow. That's incredible.
So,
wow.
The night after Gus had asked me, the night of Gus asking me, if he could finance the record, if Springer Mountain Farms could sponsor the record, I went back to the Browns' house, and Becky asked me, and she says, how would you feel about moving in? And at the time, I was working a full-time job in Michigan, and I said, absolutely. I said, that would be an honor, and I've been there ever since.
Well, that certainly says a lot about you. You've got some great people that obviously are in your corner, and that's a huge leg up in the music business when everyone is struggling to even get to that point. It's an amazing thing.
It's humbling, to say the least. It's the craziest part about it is the fact that, like, I come home at night, I got my guitar case, set my guitar case down, I go sit in the dining room, and I'll, like, make a snack to eat or something before I go to bed, or get a glass of water and sit down. And I'm sitting at the table in the dining room or in the kitchen, and this circular table, I'm sitting in Jim Ed's chair, and I'm sitting here going over the songs of the night, or thinking back, or listening to the playbacks on stuff. And it's the same table that Chet Atkins would come over and sit and talk to him at for years. The same table that any Opry star, Carl Smith and Goldie Hill, would come over and have dinner. The same chair. Over in the corner, you see so much country music memorabilia. I'm just surrounded by it. And it's just to the point now to where it's just my everyday life. And you don't realize these things after you've been there for 2 years plus, and you go home every night. But then in those moments, you know, where you really step out and you look around at you again, it never goes away. The shock factor of the life I live, it just never goes away. You're always just astounded by the history because you just revere it so much and you love it, you know.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. I love that. Well, you've written some great songs. You're a fantastic songwriter. Tell me about your latest single.
Again, I Get Missing You is the latest one I put out. It's probably been through a couple name changes, but that's what we've laid it down on to keep it simple right after the chorus of the song. I'm not a strong ballad writer. I don't think I can sit down and write ballads all day. There's some people out there that can write great ballads all day long, and I think that that's always been the hardest style of song to write for me, because when you're trying to emotionally sell a love song on another person, it has to come from a place inside that's real. You can't fake it. You can't, because I mean, how many love songs have described everything, every emotion that someone has felt about another person? I mean, we can sit here for weeks, months on end talking about love songs and the things that have been said. But when you have one that's real, that's about your real emotions, you know, it's something you have to put down, and you feel comfortable sharing it with the world because you know it comes from a very real place, and it comes from something that you've lived.
It's a great way to put it. So you're working on a full album, right?
Yeah, right now I'm working on releasing everything I've done with Jimmy, and as soon as I can get that out and out in public for people to hear, after that I'm going to be cracking down on going right back in, because I've written an entire record since I've lived here. I've lived in Nashville at least, and I'm excited to start recording and getting that process done on the next one. And luckily for me, a couple months back I got offered a part in a television show that's coming out soon, and that's what I've been doing during the winter months this year, and that's what I'm about to wrap up here by the end of this month, is this television show.
Well, that's super. That's super. Tell me a little bit about the bands that you're working with.
I work with the Cowpokes, which is the known, I guess, from what they've labeled it, the honky tonk kings of Nashville. Is they do the honky tonk Tuesday night every Tuesday night at the American Legion Post 82. And we play at Robert's Western World and Acme Feed and Seed. And it's straight up 50s and 60s country music on all ends. And I play with a band called the Tennessee Walkers that used to be fronted by Rachel Hester, which is Hoot Hester's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to work with them right around the time the pandemic restrictions and everything were getting lifted. So I've got two bands that I get to work with downtown on a regular basis. I'm really happy. It's been a very steady job and steady gig, and I'm just blessed that I got asked to be a part of both of these projects.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more music from you, and we're going to play your latest single. Again, I Get to Missing You, and I'm going to play Local Bar Opry Star. I really do like that song a lot. That's a great song. And
thank you for that. It means a lot, Scott.
And I hope you'll keep me posted when you get your new music done. I'd love to have you back on the show, and I'm sure we got tons more we can talk about. I really enjoyed visiting with you today.
Absolutely. I did too, Scott. Thank you so much for having me, and keep your eyes peeled on any news coming up, and you'll get to hear more about this television program I'm working out. If you're a country music fan, I think you'll very much so enjoy it.
All right. We'll definitely look for that. Folks, again, it's ZachariahMalachi.com is the website. and we'll have all those links on our Facebook page. We're going to play again I Get to Missing You and Local Bar Opry Star from Zachariah for you right now. And Zachariah, thank you so much for taking time to be on My Kind of Country.
God, I appreciate it more than you know.
Well, I'm stuck without a reason, a common trend that has just eaten up my life. Yet another situation, we all know it never lives up to its hype. I'm not alone, but I am lonely and a victim to the night's transcendent blues. And when the morning hits my eyelids, again I get to missing you. I often tend to be a loner in a group of shallow thinkers in this world. You match my steps in conversation, a flower in the sidewalk recently unfurled. And I just long to be your lighthouse when you're lost at sea and you ain't got a clue. Dancing in the strobing streetlight, again I get to missing you. Sitting in the coldest season, calling your name, but my voice you cannot hear. Sharing mutual impassions in a future that has always seemed so clear. I'm being torn from what is moral, wishing I were out just walking in his shoes. And when the sunlight hits my window, again I get to missing you. And when you're kissing him good morning, again I get to missing you. Stop you now, I don't wanna fuss and fight. Cessation is a thing in which I clutch with all my soul. I never thought I'd let a woman have this great a hold. I've waited oh so long, my dear, and oh so patiently. Where do you go, my sweet young thing, when you slip away from me? running to when you're underneath the stars. The drifting of your trembling hands are causing all my scars. Temptation is a thing in which I long for deep and pure. Receive the love I've given out would be the only cure. I've waited oh so long, my dear, under that willow tree. Where do you go, my sweet young thing, when you slip away from me? As warnings, men run from this woman's kind. Forgiveness is a thing in which I'm feeling all alone. She left me high and dry down here, now in a broken home. I've waited for so long and I paid every kind of fee. Where do you go, my sweet young thing, when you slip away from me? Here long, or if you just sat down. And I wonder if they filled you in. I'm the talk of this town. You may not know the truth about me if you've come from afar, but I'm this local bar's grand old Opry star. I sing the song of sadness for the love that got away, and I sing a song of romance on a couple special days. Most are too intoxicated to say that I ain't up to par. Yes, I'm this local bar, grand old Opry star. The bottle started swaying in 3/4 time, you know. A drink and a good song will help when you are feeling low. I'm the server of the grandest country music caviar. Yes, I'm this local bar, grand old Opry star. I'm here in the low places with the rest of all your friends, and I'll croon another another drinking song like pop atop again. This smoky room's a fortress, a hillbilly Alcazar. 'Cause I'm this local bar's grand old Opry star. Yes, I'm this local bar's grand old Opry star.